Hello, friends. This is your quick hits edition of Packers Day 3 of training camp. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's get into it right away. Another exciting day of practice, well, at least if you're a fan of defensive football. If you're looking for big plays on offense, it was once again not your day, but there were plenty of big plays on defense. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. Before we get there, quick look at the injury updates. Jayden Reed back at practice. He is off the NFI list. Good to go. He was individual only today. I'm sure over time we'll see if he gets back into team drills. Remember, off day on Thursday, and then they're back into it on Friday. My guess, just the way that he looked today, even, is it's not probably going to take him too long to get reacclimated and hopefully doing those team drills sooner rather than later. But for now, it's just great news that he is back and practicing. He looked like Jayden Reed, little quickness in his step per usual. Just looked exactly like you would expect him to. And I know there's a lot of high hopes for Jayden Reed in year two, and I think those high hopes are perfectly placed. I think everyone should be super excited about Jayden Reed in year two. Meanwhile, Elgton Jenkins was not practicing. No concern whatsoever, though. He had a veteran rest day. Real funny aside, Ross Uglum showed up just a half second late to practice. And he said, "Is there any news or updates?" And I said, "Yep, Elgton Jenkins vet rest day." Or what did I say? Yeah, vet rest. And it came out so fast that he thought I said Elgton Jenkins arrested. So he was, I should have kept it going because I really wanted him to tweet out Elgton Jenkins was arrested, which would have just been phenomenal. But I digress. Just vet rest, not arrested. So that's a huge, important distinction there. And then Josh Myers did have a little, I wouldn't say an injury scare per se, but he went down hurt. And he was able to get back up. Did talk to Nate Weir. He talked to Nate Weir after the play. He walked aside with him. That his group was done anyway. So that was like the last play of the ones. And I don't know if he would have stayed in or if it was just coming off because the ones were done. Tough to say. And then they didn't have any more practices with the ones, the remainder of practice. So it was literally the last play of the day for the ones. So tough to say if he was actually hurt, injured, if it's anything serious, or if it was just, he's totally fine. That we'll have to kind of keep an eye on Friday and see if he's actually out there, if there is any sort of injury concern. It didn't seem like anything major, to be honest. This is going to come as a shock. I'm not a doctor, but it didn't seem like there was any major concern. But again, anytime you see a guy go down, even lightly hurt, there's always that question mark of, is it something serious or is it absolutely nothing at all? And in this case, we don't know either one, but we'll keep an eye on it on Friday. As I mentioned, key number one for today, or key takeaway number one, defense was once again dominant. Yesterday, it had been dominant from a pressure / sack standpoint. Just sack after sack after sack. Rashawn Gary had 3 sacks, and Igbare had 3 sacks. Jonathan Ford had a sack. Like, it was just every other play, it felt like you had a sack of the quarterback. Like, it just constant. Today, it was interceptions or near interceptions. The defense was flying around. The energy was unbelievable once again. Like, we all know we get overexcited about every little thing. And we all so desperately want this team to have a good defense. But this does, early on, no over expectations, no nothing. It does absolutely feel different. It really feels different the way that they're playing, the intensity in which they're playing with, the energy in which they're playing with. As I mentioned yesterday, a lot of caveats here. First of all, it's still early in the process. Defense is usually ahead at this point. They're still in shorts, no pads, no Jordan Love, no Elgton Jenkins today, no Zach Tom in team, no Tucker Kraft, no Jayden Reed in team. The offense is missing some guys, right? And there's a lot that goes into this. Nobody is crowning this defense yet. But there are things that we can evaluate just based on how it's different from a season ago. And the intensity, the energy, the flying around, the rallying to the football, all feels night and day different. And again, that does not get you any win against the Eagles or any playoff wins against the Niners today, but it is trending in the right direction, and you're seeing things that you want to see from a practice standpoint. And usually, more often than not, good practice preparation leads to good results on the field. And what I've seen from this defense so far is a defense that is focused, honed in, intense, and like I said, flying around the football. As far as those interceptions, 5 of them on the day. You had 2 for Eric Stokes, one for Anthony Johnson Jr., his second in as many days, one for Evan Williams, his second in as many days, and then Benny Sapp also had one with the twos on the other side of the field. It was interception after interception after interception. You also had Carrington Valentine, who jumped one and almost had a pick. You had Eric Stokes, who had a fantastic pass breakup against Christian Watson down the field. And you had Jair Alexander, where there was a ball basically thrown directly to Jair down the field. And had it not been for Dontavian Wicks basically becoming a defensive back and batting it away, you would have had another interception. Some of these, some ugly throws. We'll talk about that. Other ones, some really impressive breaks on the ball / ability to come down with it. Evan Williams had probably a 60-40 or maybe even 70-30 ball thrown his way, meaning it wasn't a great pass to the receiver, but it was a jump ball situation. Evan Williams went up and got it, maintained control, and came down with the interception. And again, his second in as many days. Anthony Johnson Jr., his was a deflected pass that popped up that he was like already moving one way. He had to sort of contort his body, make a reaching grab, and then still survive the ground, making the catch. And he did all of that. It was right place, right time to some extent, but it also took a little bit of an acrobatic play to actually come down with it. Eric Stokes caught one off a deflection, jumped a route against Christian Watson on another, and I didn't see the Benny Sapp one. I saw the aftermath of the play because it was on the other side, but I did see him being the one that was returning it, and he may have returned that for a touchdown as well. Just, again, all over the field. The play down the field from Eric Stokes, batting the ball away, running step for step for Christian Watson, getting his head turned and batting it away. That was beautiful. Carrington Valentine's pass breakup was beautiful. It was just fantastic coverage. And again, some bad quarterback play mixed in with that as well. Kenny Clark had a would-be sack on the day. Here was the other thing, too, that I really want to talk about. I mentioned this a little bit the other day. When you are a flying around defense and you want to get upfield and penetrate and be super aggressive, that leaves you susceptible to some things, some screens, some draws, all of it. Like anything that can kind of counter and sort of take your own momentum away from you and then sort of use it against you can be a bit of a problem. What I've been so impressed by, there's a wide receiver screen today to, I think it was Wicks, I want to say. Either way, wide receiver screen and Igbari there instantly. He's defensive end, recognizes it, gets there. And again, if you're thinking, all right, this is going to be an attacking defense that's just going to get up the field and cause chaos, you're thinking Enigbari is going to come screaming down the field, just a bat out of hell, like tunnel vision. I'm going straight for the quarterback. They're still making sure that they have their keys, that they know exactly what they're looking for. I don't know if he got a tell or whatever it was, but that wide receiver screen goes to the outside. Enigbari is right there, stop for a loss. There's a reverse to Bo Melton. They're all over that. Like you can, again, if a defense is, wanting to scream one way to the football, you get going one way on a reverse. It's easy for an attacking defense to overcommit one way. And now you run a reverse and come the other and you're outflanked. Nope, not this defense. They were right there. Stop the reverse for a loss. These are the sort of things that you want to see from this defense early on. Again, take all the caveats that you want. I get it. I understand it. I'll say it one more time. I am not crowning this defense, saying they're top whatever in the league. I'm just saying we are seeing positive signs from this defense so far, and it has been a clinic from this defense over the last 2 days. And any sort of like 7 or 8 yard completions right now for the offense feels monumental. Like it feels like, oh my goodness, they actually completed a pass. Romeo Doubs had one over the middle. I think it was from Clifford. And, Jair was in coverage. I'm like, oh, wow, a completion. Interesting. And then there was another one later. I forget who it was to. I want to say it was Melton. It was Melton over the middle, I think from Pratt. And it was like another one. I was like, wow, they got a completion on that one. And it's just like, you're almost more surprised when anything good goes well in offense. In fact, the only good play of the day, and maybe one of like the only bad plays of the day for the defense, was Sean Clifford threw a complete wounded duck down the field to Christian Watson. It was one of those where it was so bad it was good, where it just hung up there for forever. And Stokes, quite frankly, did a poor job of getting his head turned and locating the ball, and instead played the receiver, went right through Watson, got a pass interference call. That was it. That was like the only good play for the offense, and it was really more of just a bad play by Stokes on that individual one, which you're willing to give him some accident forgiveness on that one when you have a 2 interception day plus a huge pass breakup. He was all over the place. He had a really nice day overall. Just a little bit of an unfortunate one where he didn't get his head turned on that particular play. Number two, speaking of those backup quarterbacks, Clifford, Pratt, Eason, just a ridiculously rough day. Nothing going, could not really see the field very well. And yesterday, I thought a little bit more forgiveness for them because of all the pressure, like just in certain situations, like what do you want those guys to do? Like they're looking up and they're immediately seeing guys in their face. I thought the offensive line did overall, not a great job, but a better job today. But they just were not seeing the field. And I'm going to specifically kind of signal out Sean Clifford here. He was throwing pick after wobbly pass, after interceptable pass, after pass breakup. There was nothing that really looked, any sort of rhythm, any sort of anything, just nothing could get going. And again, I'm sure just like, Jordan early last year, I'm not comparing the two, by the way, but just like Jordan last year, where Matt was quick to say, it's not just Jordan, everyone else has to help him out. I'm sure there's pieces of that as well. Again, when you're missing Jaden Reed, Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins, Tucker Kraft, that's certainly going to play a part in that. But it felt like every time the ball left his hands, it was in harm's way. And that's obviously not a way that you can survive as a quarterback. That's not even like going over the fact that you actually need to get positive results on offense. Like it just felt like anytime there wasn't a negative result, it felt like a positive. And that's no way to live on offense. Michael Pratt, again, rookie quarterback, still going through practice number 3 in training camp. You're willing to give him a little bit of time. And I don't think he's been, I think maybe, actually, I don't know that he threw any of the picks, to be honest. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I'm not sure he threw any of them. And then Jacob Eason just got here. And we sort of know Jacob Eason is an arm at this point. Nobody's has any expectations for Jacob Eason. So this sort of falls on Sean Clifford, I think, more than it does anyone else. I'm not going to be totally surprised if maybe if on Friday Jordan Love's contract isn't done, do we maybe see a little bit more Michael Pratt? Maybe not. I don't know that you want to take away any confidence from Clifford at this point. I think you maybe just put him back out there and see if he can bounce back. But at some point, I think you may need to maybe evaluate that a little bit, because it's been a very, very tough go for Clifford over these past couple days. Still insanely early. These are really young quarterbacks. They're missing some pieces on offense, even outside of Jordan Love. So let's not jump to any crazy conclusions here. But I even tweeted, I said it like kind of in jest, but at some point, if this continues, and I'm saying like weeks down the line, I'm not saying now, it's still very early. Again, pads aren't on. Like weeks down the line, we might need to have like a Ryan Tannehill / backup quarterback conversation a little bit, because at this point, it does not look like these quarterbacks could run the offense to get you the 2 wins that you're hoping for if Love's out for 4 to 5 games. And that's what you really need, is a quarterback that can get you through a 4 to 5 game stretch with 2 to 3 wins. That's all you can really hope for in that situation. Just to say around 500. And like this offense right now does not look like it can be a competent NFL offense. Give it time. Please give it time. We're not needing to jump to any conclusions at this point, but it has been a massive, massive struggle. Last but not least, a new starter on offense-ish. A new starter-ish. Zach Tom is out at right tackle. If he were there, he would just be the right tackle. But with Zach Tom out, it has been Andre Dillard at right tackle the past couple days. You may remember yesterday or this morning, if you listened to the episode this morning, I've talked about how Dillard is off to a really, really bad start. Constant pressures. Rashawn Gary just completely ate him alive yesterday. In today's practice, he was demoted. He was no longer the starter. He was the left tackle with the number 2 offense. And it was Kadeem Telfort who got the start at right tackle. I tweeted out early because they'll go through these like offensive line walkthroughs where they kind of go through, and you could kind of tell that it was probably going to be Telfort based off of that, but you don't really want to jump to too many conclusions just based off of that. But it was, in fact, Telfort when they got to team activities. And I thought he had a really nice day overall. Now, it's not like you can watch offensive linemen like super closely. You're going to end up just focusing on them if you do. But I watched a handful of reps. One specifically against Rashawn Gary, where Gary came at him, freight train, tried to bull rush him. And Telfort, if you're not aware, Telfort is a massive dude. The only reason we don't talk about him being more massive is because Caleb Jones is on the roster and he's just a freaking mountain. All right. But if Caleb Jones didn't exist on the roster, we would constantly be talking about how Kadeem Telfort is a mammoth player and would be the biggest player on the team, and is the biggest player on the team, just not named Caleb Jones. But he's a huge person. So Gary tries to go, and Telfort just sits down, anchors, and stalls Rashawn Gary out. Something that Dillard had no chance of doing yesterday. He had 2 wins against Brenton Cox, just clean. And there's another play where Enigbari, he just kind of worked him around the bend, or on the arch, whatever you want to call it. And I thought overall, first day in, right tackle, starting with the number ones, I thought he had a nice day. I didn't see him get beat clean on anything, which is certainly an upgrade over what's kind of been happening at that spot. If you remember, this is a guy I liked at OTA and minicamp. He was actually playing some guard uncharacteristically. Him and Caleb Jones were playing next to each other, and they were moving some dudes in the run game. It was fun to watch. Telford's been a guy I liked since coming out as an undrafted free agent last year. He was, I think, if not my favorite, easily one of my favorite UDFAs from a season ago. And I was really happy that they were able to get him back in the practice squad. I definitely felt like there was developmental upside there. If you would have told me, quite frankly, and this will look like hindsight or whatever, if you would have told me that they were going to bench Andre Dillard and put a right tackle in, I would have either said, A, I hope it's Kadeem Telford, or B, I expect it to be Kadeem Telford. That did not come as a surprise to me whatsoever, because I do think there is a little bit of potential there. And he made the most out of his first day. We'll see what he can do with it. Maybe it's going to be somebody else on Friday. Maybe it'll be, maybe Zach Tom will be back, first of all. If he's not, maybe Dillard will get another chance. Maybe it'll be Luke Tenuta, who's also had a little bit of a tough start to camp, but maybe it'll just be a rotation there. Who knows? But I was excited to see Kadeem Telford there. Like I said, mammoth human being, liked him coming out. Huge opportunity for him. The one thing he's going to struggle with, twists and stunts, the movement side of things. He's a big physical dude. You want him in a phone booth. The more that you can kind of get him having to move his feet quickly, that's where he can get into some trouble. There was a twist, a stunt inside that thankfully the quarterback got rid of the ball quickly, because otherwise I think he would have struggled getting to it. And that's, again, something that he's going to have to continue to work on. But he's a big physical dude. He can anchor, he can maul you. And I'm excited to see what he can do. And I think it was the right move to give him that opportunity ahead of Andre Dillard. And he had a much better day than Dillard had over the first 2 days of practice. Reminder, no practice on Thursday. We'll be back on Friday. So there'll be no extra episodes tomorrow on Thursday. We'll have the full breakdown of Wednesday's practice on Thursday morning. Perry Goldstein and I are recording Thursday night to kind of recap everything that we've seen so far. That will air Friday morning. Of course, if you're a Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube member, you always get those a little bit earlier. So make sure to think about that. Check out those memberships, like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews. I will be back a little bit later doing all the full breakdown of everything that happened at practice. But for now, until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.